08108.
But then you and I are not the same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. So before we go, do it all again. You better catch your own train.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, and I'm delighted to say that as the World Cup draw edges ever nearer to us, it's live on Talk Sport on Friday. The Seeker of Truth and Justice is here, Mr. Mike Porky Parry. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you, Mike. Great to be here in the studio with you as ever once again. However, you're being mischievous.
How do you mean?
Well, because you know full well that mathematics is not my strong point, OK? I am an
What is your strong point?
I'm an artistic individual.
Is that right?
At school, I studied the arts subjects. I nearly went to Brasenose College, Oxford, to do politics, philosophy and economics. I'm not into mathematics
Economics
and all
has
that.
got mathematical parts to it.
Economics is a theory. It's nothing to do with figures. It's a theory.
Really?
I think I should just point that out to you.
Well, you've never done very well at history.
I know anything about history. I know the history of the Royal Navy from back to front. So I'm not big on mathematics, and therefore, as you've been telling the audience that I was the man who's going to come in and solve
I presume you're able to sort this all out.
No, I'm not able to sort it out because I still don't understand the way the minds of, Mr.
Platini?
No, Blatter. Stop confusing me. Sepp Blatter. I don't know the way that
Sepp Blatter's
the man
come
will do
out
it.
with the big news, by the way, in the last 24 hours, that he's very, very happy to say that everything's going to be ready for the World Cup. All the stadiums going to be ready.
So, look, you can't make fun of the fact that there were casualties in the Sao Paulo
I'm not suggesting I'm
incident.
making fun of it, but
I'm telling you, I remember all this build-up to the South Africa one, right, when we all went there 4 years ago, and it went off like a dream. And they're supposed...
apart from England's perspective.
Well, yes, exactly. I'm talking about the execution of the tournament.
Yes.
There was no evidence whatsoever that it was going to go wrong. Just everybody had a feeling that it might be disorganised. But in Brazil, things are going wrong.
Yeah.
So how on earth... And by the way, reading just about this draw, I've just been reading about the location of it. You've got to fly 2 hours, apparently, out of Sao Paulo or Rio. Then when you land wherever you go, you've got another hour... across roads that are hardly roads.
Apparently one of the things that we've learned from talking to Tim Vickery over the last few months, there are no trains really to speak of in Brazil. The best way to travel is by road because the planes are really expensive and you can't get on them half the time. Well, and people are going to be driving thousands and thousands of miles.
Yeah, they are. Anyway, look, let's stick to actually what's going to happen there. The point is, I never get involved in all these stupid rows about who we might get, who you don't know you're going to get until the draw's made.
I'm worried about this pot X, though. Anything that's got pot X in it sounds to me to be a bit fishy.
Well, all I've seen is pot 1, 2, pot 2, pot 3, pot 4.
No, there's a pot X.
Pot X? I don't know what pot X is.
There's a pot X. That's how they've explained it. Because apparently... Well, let me read you, if I can find it here, let me read you this passage, which might make it more straightforward to you.
Are you sure it won't make it more complicated?
No, this is exactly how it's going to work.
Right, go on then. Go on, let's have it.
Just find it.
Just read the passage to me, Mike.
I'll read the
let's
passage.
Have the passage. Come on.
As soon as I can find it,
Can I have the passage, please?
Oh, here we go. I've got it here.
Oh, you've got it. Found it.
Yeah, I've found it. I've got so many bits of paper here because we've got so much research. Now, just listen very carefully to this, right? If England are moved to pot 2, which contains 7 African and South American teams, they would be guaranteed to face either Brazil, Argentina, Colombia or Uruguay, who will form a temporary pot X. See?
Pot X, OK.
Well, a temporary pot.
You know more about it than I do. The point is...
What's the point of having a temporary pot?
I don't know, and I don't
well, you're
care.
You're supposed to be explaining it.
No, I'm not explaining it. You have been brainwashing the audience into telling them I'm some sort of expert on it. I'm not an expert at all. I'm not going to explain it because I tell you why. If you just shut up for a minute...
Well, why are you here, then?
Well, the reason I'm here is to say to you that the predictions for the draw are irrelevant because nobody knows what's going to happen until actually the draw's made. When the draw's made, then we'll know exactly where we're going. And my view is you take what is put in front of you in these competitions. I couldn't care less who we're drawn up against because if we want to have success in the World Cup, we're going to have to beat nations from all over the world anyway.
And also,
therefore, just let me finish. Right. You asked me to explain. And therefore,
you're not explaining anything.
And therefore, in our group, I don't mind who it is. I've seen that one killer group of death could be us with Brazil and Italy and USA. Right? I don't fear that group at all.
No, why would you?
Actually, over the last 2 years, if you look at England's performances, they perform as well, if not better, against stronger countries than they do against weak countries.
I think that's probably true, because we were talking to that the caller just before you came in, who was saying, look at the group from 2010, and you were there, so Slovenia, Algeria, USA, England.
That's it.
England came second.
Yeah.
I'm sure if they had been stronger teams, England might have done at least as good, and maybe top.
I totally agree with you, because we had some appalling performances against very weak teams. Algeria, I think, was the...
and there was the Rob Green incident,
the game that everybody hated, and that sort of thing. So I simply can't get worked up about, which group are we going to be in, which team's the team of death, the group of death. I don't get all that. You play the teams that are in front of you in a World Cup, and a World Cup of all places, because it's a one-off opportunity, is full of surprises.
Yeah. And it's full of surprises and full of rainforest over there as well. And Roy Hodgson supposedly...
Oh, it's not, is it? What, rainforest in Brazil?
Well, Roy Hodgson apparently is
Wouldn't
in
be
fear.
the Amazon by any chance, would it?
It would have
the world's biggest forest.
Now, I haven't asked you if you've been to Brazil before. You
Yes,
said
sir.
you've been there once or twice.
I have, yeah. I've been to...
Have you been to the rainforest part?
Rio.
Have you been to, what's the name of that bit, which is Manaus, I think it is, which is the part that's right in the middle of the rainforest?
Manaus, no, not
That's
been
one of the places where they're hosting quite a lot of the games, and I think Roy Hodgson's worried that he'll have to travel. It's about 3,000 miles into the rainforest, and it's going to be very humid.
That's right, and he said, I don't want to play there. And I tell you what, that'll be the sort of place where, actually, when helicopters land, local people come out with bows and arrows and fire arrows at them.
That'd be ridiculous.
I'm telling you, that's
the
happened.
kind of thing that upsets people.
No, that has happened.
It has not in Manaus, it hasn't. Manaus is a city.
Well, look, I'm telling you, mate, and this is no joke, and in fact, I'm saying it in tribute to Brazil. There are still pockets of Brazil where the indigenous local...
Still pockets of Surrey where the indigenous population aren't to be messed about.
Indigenous local population still live as their forefathers did many thousands of years
ago. I
ago.
think you'll find that most of them have been cleared by the multinationals who are now cutting down the Amazon rainforest.
You have a look on your computer.
There are hardly any of them left.
You have a look at your computer after I've left, and there is still one tribe there who actually fired at a helicopter as it was landing.
Yeah, that was quite a few years ago.
In a clearing. No, it's just a couple of years ago.
Now they've all been brought out. They're living in high-rise apartments in Rio.
Look, it's pointless talking about the draw because we cannot solve what the draw's going to do until it's done on Friday.
Right, but it will be live on TalkSport. Let's talk about something we can solve.
Go on.
And my great idea, which I'm sure you'll agree with, to ban all bags from stadiums. You don't bring a bag to a football stadium. I went to see Crystal Palace with you. You didn't bring a bag.
No,
why would you need to bring a bag to a football stadium?
Well, I have to say, Mike, and I know we should say this because you're a friend and long-standing colleague, but John Connor, the retired expert policeman, did in fact rubbish that idea.
It's John O'Connor, and he is in fact
it's John Connor. It's not O'Connor.
He's a former commander of the Metropolitan Police.
And his name is Connor, not O'Connor.
It's O'Connor.
No, his name is John Connor. And he is a former commander, you're absolutely right. And he absolutely rubbished your daft idea to ban bags. Yes, he did. He made the point that if it was Old Trafford, right, and people would stop taking their bags in, you'd need a building the size of an aircraft carrier's dry dock to put all these bags that you're taking off people while you go into
this is where you're wrong.
Into
because
the game.
First of all, you issue the general phrase, no bags to be brought to the stadium. And that means at least 50% of people who thought they would bring a bag would not bring one, okay?
Mate,
so that's already half of the people who were going to bring a bag.
May I make a suggestion?
Hang on. I know you've said that maths is not your strong point. Say there's 70,000 people turning up for the game. 35,000 of them won't bring a bag anyway. So immediately you cut that down. So we're already down at 17,000, right? And then once you've told them that they can't bring a bag, then there'll probably be half of that. So 8,000 bags, it's not that hard to find enough space for those.
Are you mad? Are you mad? You know how many people go into the average nightclub? 200 or 300. And you said it's just like going to a nightclub. And you're talking about 7,000 or 8,000.
You've got a huge amount of space.
7,000 or 8,000 bags. I mean, you'd need Terminal 5 at Heathrow to house that number of bags.
You could convert one of the outbuildings outside of Old Trafford
let me just say this
into a place to store the bags.
Let me just put this to you. Instead of having signs all over the place saying don't bring a bag, why don't you be more practical and have signs all over the place saying don't bring flares?
Oh, that's a good idea,
And then if you have a sign saying don't bring flares, nobody will bring a flare.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
Well, hang on.
Fantastic.
Excuse me, have you seen any signs outside any football grounds which say don't bring flares? Because I haven't.
No,
I go to lots of football grounds and there are no signs. So what I'm saying
they
is...
also say they don't have a sign saying don't bring any nuclear devices with you either, but nobody brings them, do they?
You see, you're being pathetic now because you've been caught out on a very, very practical solution. Right, let me tell you this. Most people think flares are a bit of fun. As you were saying earlier in your show, most people think that they're harmless.
Well, I'm amazed that people think that.
I know,
they're
but
not
they
harmless.
do. So if you put signs up all over the place saying flares and fireworks, pyrotechnics prohibited, absolutely prohibited, and then another sign saying anybody found in possession of flare is subject to being charged with arson.
Okay.
You know what the charge of arson is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's for setting fire.
No, it's not. It's for igniting material which may threaten life, okay?
Okay.
Right, that's the definition of arson.
Well, if you set fire to something and there's nobody inside the building, that's not arson. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm not telling you that at all, because you don't know there's nobody inside the building when you set fire to it.
Arson is about setting fire.
And it's with intent to endanger life.
Okay.
Because if you set fire, for instance, to a match to light your cigarette, that is not arson. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, of course not.
Unless you think of setting fire to the coat of the bloke sitting in front of you or something.
Well, yeah. Well, exactly. If you're standing on the tube and you light a match next to somebody...
Yeah, well, you can't smoke on the tube, can you? Anyway, look, you find it so difficult to be practical about... You complicate problems which are simple.
I find it quite quaint that you think if you just put a sign up that says don't bring any fireworks in here, nobody will bring
any. Well, I'm telling you, most people think it's a bit of a laugh. I mean, look, these people don't go in with them...
it's not a bit of a laugh, is it?
I don't think it's a bit of a laugh. Of course I don't.
Have you ever witnessed some of these smoke bombs? I mean, there are people... This guy who was talking about that Europa League game down at Swansea, St Gallen, who the fans completely blocked off and couldn't watch the football for 10 or 15 minutes.
But most people, of that sort of teenage age, think you light a flare, you throw it on the pitch, it just burns out harmlessly, but it lights up the stadium. Well, of course, you and I know that's not the case, because we have lived through, for instance, the horrendous tragedy of the Bradford fire disaster and things like this. So we know that fire inside a football stadium is a major threat to safety. Major threat.
I'll tell you what you have hit on, though, is a very good point, is that maybe the clubs are just not doing enough.
Exactly.
Maybe if they did put massive signs up that said, under, pain of whatever, if you bring anything like that into this building, you will be banned forever from this building.
5 minutes ago on this very show, you just rubbished that idea and said it's too simplistic.
Well, it is simplistic.
But now you're admitting it could be effective.
I don't think it would work. But I think it would be at least an indication that the clubs are taking it seriously.
Of course,
which at the moment
it would work.
I don't think they are.
It would work because people say, hang on. They would. A guy would say to his mate, hang on, Jimmy, that flare you got stuffed down your trousers. No. Hang on, that flare you got stuffed down your trousers. It says there we could get life ban and be charged with arson if we take it in. Hand it in. And by the way, where do you get flares from? Well, listen, mate, I live down on the coast. There's places called chandleries. A chandlery is a boat supplier, right? And they have rows and rows of flares. A chandlery. It's a shop that supplies...
You mean a chandler's, do you?
No, chandlery. It supplies boat equipment, and there's rows and rows of flares in the window. I've seen them all over the place.
Is that where they buy them, then?
Of course they do.
Well,
That's where you get them from.
They should stop selling them then.
No, they sell them to men who take boats out to sea.
Well, no, they obviously sell them to football
because a flare
supporters.
is a sign of distress if your boat starts sinking.
Yeah, but they obviously sell them to football supporters. You've got this all wrong.
Well, how do you know when the guy comes in and says, I want a couple of flares, please?
Well,
do you
say, get a licence for him then?
Do you say, well, have you got a boat? And the bloke says, yeah. It says, where is your boat? It's not parked outside. Well, of course it's not. A boat parks on water.
Well, they should show some kind of licence. That's the way around it, because it's nonsense, absolute nonsense. Porky has very disappointingly not explained the World Cup draw, and he's also got no idea what to do about flares. Let's see what we can say about Everton and Manchester United coming up next.
I solved the flare situation.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as ho-ho-hos. Yeah, but maybe it's not too late to learn how to love.
This is Talk Sports Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, and we are the two Mikes. Mr. Mike Parry is sitting next to me for the first time this week. And I have to say, Mike, it's a bit unusual, really, that you're here on a Tuesday. Normally, you would have been here on a Monday.
Well, I like to be with yourself.
I wasn't here yesterday.
No, you weren't here because you were moving house, by the way. How did it go?
Yeah, it was fine. Went all right.
Yeah? What do you mean went all right?
I mean, okay.
No, moving house can be really stressful.
It can be stressful.
It can be difficult. You can find yourself moving at a house and all of a sudden your washing machine's delivered and it doesn't work. Do you have an experience like that?
Well, I don't
Funnily
really know.
enough, huh?
Well, no, it's not something I particularly want to talk about. It's my private life. I don't really talk about that. There are things about your life that you don't talk about. No. So therefore there are things about my life that I don't talk about.
No, I'm an open book, right? And you share your experience. Really? You share your experiences with your audience, okay?
Yeah.
And if there's something to relate about, I mean, for instance, you were moving house, which deprived your audience of listening to you last night.
That's true.
So I think you have an obligation to explain to your audience
it went very
why
well.
you put moving house in front of serving an audience that you've built up over the years, but which you deserted last night because you thought it was more important to domicile yourself domestically.
Well, no, I think in fairness, having got a young family, you wouldn't expect me to just abandon them and go.
Well, why didn't you move on Saturday and Sunday when you weren't working?
Because that wasn't possible. It wasn't possible to get the keys to the new house until Monday. So it's a bit difficult to move your stuff into a house when you haven't got the keys to open the front door.
Yes, it is a bit, I suppose. But if you organise your life properly and got yourself sorted...
All I can say is that it's gone reasonably well.
You've got so many disparate families littered around the world. I thought you'd be quite used to moving people in and out of houses.
Well, I was only moving one of them, unfortunately. I wasn't trying to move two of them at the same time.
Yeah, you admit it, then. Yeah.
Well... you know, I've moved across the Atlantic, as you have, which can be difficult, you know, but sometimes that can be also subsidised by somebody else.
I had some furniture shipped across the Atlantic once from America, you know, loads of really good stuff. And it took about 6 weeks to arrive. Yeah. And then when it
cost a fortune.
Well, I wasn't paying for it. The Daily Express was, fortunately. And then it went to the wrong house. I went to somebody else's house. You know, some bloke wakes up one morning, see a furniture van outside full of furniture, really good furniture.
Did it come from that
bought
place
in Fifth Avenue?
Did it come from that place out by the docks when there's a massive, great big Pantechnicon arrived with my stuff, right? I was moving into this quite small house, which you saw in Primrose Hill in North London. Yeah. Little Mews house, right? When we got the furniture out, none of it would fit in the door.
No, that's right.
It was all so the guy said, "No, don't worry." And I said, "Well, hey," he said, "Well, we'll figure something out. We're going to get a carpenter over." And I said, "Oh, okay."
A carpenter to do what?
Well, as I later discovered, to saw it in half. They sawed all the furniture. No, they sawed all the furniture in half so they could get it inside the door. And then they put it back together again, and it was never the same. And these were, you know, my ex-wife now went absolutely ballistic because she was out, of course, didn't want any part of it. And she came back down the Mews to see this guy hacking away at this $5,000 couch that she'd bought. Everything
in America is bigger. I mean, that goes without saying. Yeah. And I bought a sofa bed because I thought living in America, people might come over, want to visit, you know, your apartment's
How wrong you were.
No. I'm very popular.
Nobody came to visit you.
Yes, they did.
People came there for work purposes and stayed in hotels. Whoever stayed at your place then?
A couple of young ladies came over from England to reacquaint
themselves. Oh, you lured a couple of secretaries over, did you?
No. But anyway, point is, because I had a sort of... it was a kind of 1.5 bedroom...
You put that on the company as well, didn't you?
No, a 1.5 bedroom type apartment, you see. The only thing you get into the half room, if you see what I mean...
come and stay in my lavish New York pad, and when they arrive, there's only one bed. Which side would you like?
So anyway, I had one of these sofa beds, right? But I'd gone and bought it in a top furniture store on probably...
Sofa beds are us or
Fifth
something?
Avenue. Yeah, something like that, Fifth Avenue. And the thing was massive.
It wasn't those guys that used to drive around with rent a mattress or whatever.
I did get some furniture from the Salvation Army when I first got to New York because they had a big warehouse where they sold off stuff that had been repossessed.
You bought an old mattress?
No. Tables and chairs and things. Not beds or couches or anything.
Is this the expensive stuff you ship back then later?
I only shipped back the expensive stuff. I sent the Salvation Army stuff back to the Salvation Army. That was my gift to America when I left. But anyway, the point of the story is this sofa bed was like massive. It was at least large enough for 4 people on it and all that kind of stuff, you know. And the guys who got it out the lorry in England simply refused in the end.
Because it's so heavy.
It was massively heavy. You needed 4 men to lift it. And I bought a new sort of second floor apartment. You simply could not get it up the stairs.
Well,
it was
that's
impossible.
The thing. I mean, I can say that, you know, quite a lot of the furniture that we moved basically fell apart.
Yeah,
we moved it so much that there comes a point at which, you know, and the guy says to you, you know, we've tried to take that chest of drawers apart, but actually we're not sure if we can put it back together. And so a lot of it ended up just going to the dump.
Unbelievable. But
anyway,
I'll
tell you one thing that did happen at the weekend,
right,
which really ground me down. And I tweeted about this on Saturday morning because, you know, the Christmas season is upon us, more or less.
Festive season. Spirit of goodwill.
Spirit of goodwill and all that. So I was dispatched to the post office before the move kind of took place and while everybody could remember what they were doing to send a bunch of stuff to America, right? So I thought, well, I'll do the right thing. I'll go early. And nearby where I am, there's a place where, you know, because a lot of the post offices, you can't park anywhere near them for a start.
You can't.
You know.
Close so many of them down anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. But there's one where there's no yellow lines on the road and you can park relatively close to it, right? So I got up there. There's about 3 spaces in front of the post office. They were occupied. So I thought, well, I can't park there. I had the kids with me. I said, well, I'll just go a bit further down the road. And it's one of those places where, you know, people have got driveways. And so they draw those white lines where you can't park.
So you don't park across their driveway,
No, you don't park across there. So I went a little bit further down to a place where the normal road was quite a busy road. And I thought, well, because it's quite a busy road, just to be helpful, I'll put 2 of my wheels up on the pavement.
Thoughtful.
You know, because I don't want the car to be blocking traffic, which it would have done.
Or get it scraped by a van or something.
Exactly. So, anyway, go in. It takes a little while to do it. It's a bit of a queue. 10 minutes later, come out. I got a ticket. I've got it right here in front of me. And I've got a ticket not because I parked on a yellow line, right? Not because I parked in an area which wasn't supposed to be occupied.
Penalty charge notice. Parked with 1 or more wheels on any part of an urban road other than a carriageway, footway parking infringement.
Right. Now, first of all, there's no sign that says it's a footway parking infringement. I had no idea that it was an infringement of any kind. I mean, on Twitter, lots of people said things like, well, what if you've got sight-impaired people or people pushing a double buggy or people trying to walk a dog?
Shall I tear this up for you?
Well, no, because I've got to pay it.
Well, why don't we protest?
Well, yeah, but pay it.
But listen, if we do it now publicly, your defence will be, well, I didn't tear it up, but somebody
That's
tore
not a defence.
You could say...
You have no idea about the law at all.
Yeah, it wasn't...
Ignorance of the law is no defence.
Sorry.
I'm just... Don't tear it up. I've got to pay the thing.
Well, you're not paying it now.
Oh, great, thanks. Okay. So when it doubles to 70 quid, I'll send you the bill.
Sorry, mate.
Fantastic.
Sorry, don't worry about it.
Complete moron.
No, I'm sorry, mate.
I've got to pay it.
I don't see why you should pay it. And anyway, listen,
mind you, to be honest, it's actually on a car that's about to blow up, so it doesn't actually matter.
You have got a defence now. You can say somebody's tore it up and...
I've got a real tale of woe about the car, but I haven't even got time to get into that.
Oh, really?
But,
Anyway,
so apparently it's I parked there in all honesty in a way that was, I thought, more considerate for people driving. Now the pavement in question is not walked upon by anybody. It's not run by nobody runs on it. There's no houses there. Nobody's pushing a buggy. Nobody's walking around sight impaired. Absolutely unbelievable in this country.
Well, you haven't got to pay it now, mate. Sorry, it's gone. Look, screwed it up.
Well, I can't pay it now.
No, you can't.
I'm going to have to ring them up and get them to issue another one.
That's me screwing it up, by the way. And there it is.
That is so irresponsible.
Hits the bin. There you go.
That's another 70 quid.
I'm helping you out. Helping you out. Don't worry about that. Right, talking about moving house, by the way. Yeah. Domestic goods that you move around.
Yeah.
Sets of pans, right? You get your pan out. Right. I've taken back a pan I bought from a very prestigious shop because it said it was non-stick, okay? Yeah. But it is not non-stick. I've put my milk in it.
What sort of pan is it?
Well, it's supposed to be a non-stick pan.
Like a frying pan, you mean?
No.
It's a saucepan.
Yeah, saucepan, and it's non-stick, right? So I thought this is great because I've taken up to eating porridge, right? Bit of porridge.
Well, I suggested that.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give you credit. Oh, so simple nonsense.
Yeah, I'll give you credit for that. Okay, and my point is this: you put the milk
in. The proper Scotch porridge oats and all that.
Yeah, all the Scotch porridge oats.
What's that? Scotch porridge oats. I've turned into stick for Claret again.
I bought some in Amsterdam. Yeah. The point is, so you put your milk in, right? You boil it up, and then...
Why are you boiling milk?
Because I put hot milk in my porridge.
Yeah, but you don't boil milk in a saucepan, surely.
Yeah, well, how do you heat up milk then?
Put it in a microwave.
Well, that's lazy, that, and it's not healthy.
Boiling milk is dangerous.
Well, I boil the milk and I keep an eye on it so it doesn't come over the top, because if it does, it makes a mess of my cooker, right? So
and the pan.
What?
And the pan.
Well, this is the point. It's a non-stick pan.
So you're boiling milk, what, to just pour over the porridge?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, it's idiotic.
Mix it all up with a bit of syrup and some peaches, and that's my porridge.
Do you not cook the porridge in the pot?
No.
So you don't actually cook the porridge at all?
Of course you don't cook the porridge. The porridge...
You're supposed to cook it.
No, you put the hot milk in. Anyway, look, let me get to the point of the story.
No, you did it all wrong.
So anyway, this pan, once the milk's out, there's a coating of, milk in the pan.
Really? What a surprise.
So I always boil a kettle and put that in.
Skin on it and everything.
Hang on, boil a kettle, put it in, whiz it around and think it should go. It doesn't. It forms a dreadful film of white in the pan. And then I have to resort to getting kitchen towel and all that kind of stuff and wiping the inside of the pan.
What a nightmare for you.
It is a nightmare. So I've taken the pan back.
Some people would think that your life is actually not worth living.
I've taken the pan back and I've said this is not a non-stick pan because my milk sticks to the sides of this pan and I want a refund.
And what did they say? If you come round here again, we're going to call the police.
Well, something like that. They kind of said to me it is a non-stick pan. It said, and they said that it's not made for boiling milk in. Well,
what it's not.
Well, what pan is made for boiling milk in?
A milk boiling pan.
Milk boiling pan. Anybody out there got a milk boiler?
Yeah, dearie me, you've had some old boilers in your time, I tell you. That's another story.
Nice, isn't it? That's nice, eh?
This
Another
is
one below
the
the
two
belt.
Mikes, Mike Graham and Mike Parry. Coming up, we're going to talk about Manchester United versus Everton. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I apologise for what would appear to be a very biased-sounding piece of music, but I have to say, listening to it, it's rather uplifting, isn't it?
It is absolutely stirring.
Uplifting. Fancy Smith and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
A very long time ago.
The white Zephyr car, remember, in the opening credits and all that kind of stuff. And
Bert Lynch.
Yeah, Bert Lynch, that's right. And it does, honestly, if you're an Evertonian, we've all got our own theme tunes and all that. I like the one at Sunderland, actually. Is that the March of the Valkyries or something?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Is it? Yeah, something like that. But anyway, I love the Everton one, obviously, for obvious reasons. And the reason, of course, we're focusing, Mike, is tonight Martinez takes Everton, Roberto Martinez, to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
For the first time, David Moyes will face his old team.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating match-up for many reasons, because I was thinking about this earlier on in the day.
You do think about things a bit earlier on in the day, do you?
This would have happened to you a lot, in lots of the jobs that you had. When you leave that job and somebody else takes it over, and they do it so much better than you, suddenly you think, what was I doing all that time that I was there?
That's so funny.
Well, I mean, all those newspaper jobs that you had, when you left them, the person who came in after you was always much better.
I was the longest-serving news editor on the Daily Express ever, right?
Really?
5 years, yeah. Burnt myself out.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I mean.
The bloke
who took at the end.
The bloke who took
like
over.
Napoleon.
the bloke who took over was my deputy, so I'd taught him everything he knew, and then he just had to get on with it without me.
Than you.
Well, I had some debates.
And now he's a very, very high-flying, deputy editor of a national newspaper.
Yeah, well, that's as maybe. By the way, very, very briefly, because we're on air, very good friend of ours, Brian Hitchin, who was an outstanding Fleet Street editor for many years, was tragically knocked over and killed whilst at his holiday home in Spain over the weekend, together with his wife, aged respectively. Brian was 77, his wife was 80, both knocked down. Wife was killed instantly. Brian died the following day in hospital. I have to say, absolutely shocked. He was a lovely man and a great Fleet Street guy, but I thought we'd just say that.
No, quite right. I was really shocked when I found out about that.
Shocking.
Terrible. But, fantastic guy. Let's talk a bit about this game tonight, because we've got David Moyes talking. You've always said that you thought David Moyes didn't leave at the right time when he was offered the job from Manchester United. You've always said that, he was not doing Everton and Everton fans a service, really, by not sort of declaring his hand.
Once it became public, he should have gone.
Yeah, so let's listen to what he had to say about this.
I was running out of contract as well. I only found out about this Manchester United job about 4 weeks before the end of the season. So if you said, how would you leave a club and how would you do it, I don't know if I could have done it any better. I don't know if MD could have done it any better. And at the first right opportunity, I tried to speak to Bill Kenwright, and that's how we handled it.
So I don't think it's new, the timing of that. But I was going to ask you because, obviously you know more about the ins and outs of the timing of it. I mean, that's not a new thing that it was a month before the end of the season.
It's a new public thing. Yeah. I think unless you... kind of knew some of what was going on in the background. That is definitely a new public thing, because the story that we've had so far is that, David Moyes, who, by the way, is a great man, an honourable man, and I'm not casting aspersions on his character. It's a very difficult situation to be in when you're manager of Everton and Manchester United want you. But the official story so far has been that David was out shopping in Cheshire with his wife, that he got a phone call from Sir Alex Ferguson, which is not unusual. They've been very close for a number of years, Scotsman from Glasgow, that sort of thing. And David didn't nearly go to work for Sir Alex Ferguson when he was manager at Preston. And, do you want to come round and have a chat and have a cup of tea? And he comes back an hour later and says to his wife, I'm the new manager of Manchester United. And that was what we all thought.
Which in itself is an extraordinary kind of way to do it, isn't
absolutely extraordinary, because you'd have thought, well, hang on, shouldn't he have spent 2 or 3 hours on the phone to Mr. Kenwright talking about all this? But anyway, there we go. Point is...
So what we now know is that was a month before the end of the season, presumably.
And by the way, I'm not casting any aspersion on David. I'm certain he would have gone straight to Mr. Kenwright the moment...
Well, see, listening to what he said, I'm not sure, because he said we tried, and I presume by we, he means him and his kind of management group or whatever. We tried to talk to Bill Kenwright. Now, surely, if you're the manager of Everton and you want to talk to Bill Kenwright, it's not that difficult.
Of course it's not. They talk 5 or 6 times a day, every day. I know that for a fact. But
the way that he said that made it seem to me that he didn't do it as soon as he should have.
Well, I really can't comment on that, and I doubt very much if David did anything underhanded. He's not an underhanded man.
I'm not suggesting that,
but there is a postscript to this, and the postscript is once it became public that he was going, Everton had 2 games left till the end of the season, and I made it absolutely clear, and I still do, to the club, including Mr. Kenwright, I thought that was the right time for David to have gone, because we had 2 or 3 members of the coaching staff, Phil Neville and Duncan Ferguson were 2 of them, who may have been considered to be the next Everton manager. They'd have had 2 Premier League games then to have got a grip of.
Or possibly guys that might go with him to Old Trafford.
Well, Phil Neville did go with him to Old Trafford, and my immediate view then was, well, he'll have his eye on Leighton Baines and Marion Fellaini, maybe others, and he doesn't work for Everton anymore. And I was vindicated, because 3 days later, a picture on the back of a national newspaper had David Moyes, still Everton manager with 2 games to go, coming staying out of a hotel in Cheshire with Ryan Giggs and Sir Alex Ferguson, and they'd been talking about Wayne Rooney's future at Manchester United.
Now, you might say that at that point it doesn't matter for Everton.
Well, it does, because they had 2 games to go.
Yeah, but they weren't competing for anything, were they?
It doesn't matter. The thing is, if you're paying a manager, he had a very good contract, David, at Everton. I think he was the 3rd highest manager in the Premier League at about, I'm not going to speculate, but I think, it was big money.
Millions.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
It was big money, and therefore I think he had an obligation. But look, I can't cast aspersions on 11 years at Everton. Did well. What I think would be a fantastic indication, maybe, of the good work he did at Everton is if Martinez takes an Everton team to United tonight, takes them a step further, and gets a victory, which I think they're very capable of.
Well, all you've got to do is look at the league table, and there are those. I mean, there's those old jokes going around there, aren't there? That Moyes always said he wanted to get Everton above Manchester United, and now he's managed to do it.
Yeah,
which is a bit odd. Yeah. See, the way you're laughing tells me that you're being very disingenuous about all this lovey-dovey nonsense about, always a great man.
Well,
you are slightly embittered about the whole thing.
I'm not embittered.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. My
you
view is that David Moyes was great for Everton, but he's not Everton anymore. Roberto Martinez is now the big man at Everton.
Roberto Martinez a better manager for Everton, do you think?
I think he's adopted a new approach, which is not as cautious as David Moyes' was, and I think that's paying off. Having said that, we've drawn too many games that we should have won, so maybe, he's not even been adventurous enough, perhaps. I don't know. How can I talk about football? I don't know much about it, apart from watching it and following it.
Predictions which don't come true. You want to get 3 out of 10 this week, I think, wasn't it?
No, it's much more than that.
Well, it might have been 4.
Much more than that. But anyway, I'll be making some fresh set of predictions tomorrow morning because there's 9 Premier League games tomorrow night. Yeah. And that will allow somebody to put meat on the table at the weekend if they follow my my guidance.
Or if they take it as a guide and actually go completely the opposite way. But, one more question before we leave this subject. How is it possible, under the current laws of etiquette and football and tapping up and all of that a manager of a Premier League football team like Manchester United can ring up the manager of another Premier League football team and offer him a job before the season's over? How does that work?
Well, we all know how it works. We all know how football works. I mean, his contract was running down, but it's not that.
No, but that's not the point, is it?
I think you'll find, Mike, honestly, in football these days, almost always there's personal contact between managers, players and players, players and coaches, players and managers before deals take place. There has to be. Because what's the point of somebody going public and saying we're going to make a huge bid for this player from the other club at £35 million unless...
Well, then let's get it all out in the open and let's not pretend that there are rules that everybody behaves by.
Unless somebody's put a quick call into the player to say, look, are you interested in coming to the club? Because if he says, no, I'm not, then you make a fool of yourself going public on the bid if the player doesn't want to come. And a lot of it, by the way, Mike, is done player to player in dressing rooms during international weeks.
Well, we've heard from Zabaleta, haven't we?
Absolutely.
That old Lionel Messi's always asking him about Manchester City. I'm not sure I believe that one, though.
Well, stranger things have happened. You get the kind of feeling that top continental players sometimes see the Premier League as a 2-year payoff at the end of their career, don't you? And that sort of thing. So who knows? I'm not saying that Messi's anywhere near the end of his career for the memento.
Right. Well, now listen. Let's talk about the Ashes because very exciting. Talk about the Ashes. Because as you know, the first series of the Ashes was on TalkSport Extra Time because it goes all the way through the night. You see, and myself and Jack Bannister keep everybody very well updated. I'm very much looking forward to this new second test, even though I haven't got a great deal of confidence in England because of the way that they played in the first.
Well, they can't be as bad as the first.
But they rule out drinking water.
Well, you see, now I don't get this.
They were out drinking water.
I do not get this.
Until 3 in the morning.
And you're sure it's water, are you?
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, is it? Right,
I wasn't there, so I don't know what they were drinking.
At 3:30 in the morning, if you're a professional sportsman, you should not be out in any establishment which serves alcohol.
Well, it's the only place that's open, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not, is it? I mean, you could be in the hotel bar or something like that, in your own hotel. So you're in a licensed establishment, you've gone all the way out there to drink a glass of water. OK, we'll take their word for it if it was water.
Well, here's their excuse. Their excuse was, we're talking about Kevin Peterson, right,
Yep.
Bairstow, and one other, I think. I can't remember who the other one was. They were supposedly not doing anything wrong, according to the England
it is wrong.
because they arrived apparently at their destination at about 1 o'clock in the morning. And so you know what it's like if you arrive somewhere in the middle of the night, you don't want to go straight to bed. They went out to a bar and supposedly didn't have any alcohol and stayed out till 3:30.
All right, well, we won't challenge the alcohol judgment. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cough there. We won't challenge the alcohol.
Broad was the other one.
Sorry?
Stuart Broad
was the one. All I would say is this: it's not the place for an athlete to be at 3:30 in the morning. And what really bugs me, Mike, what really, really gets me, is that we've seen it happen. Big star with the England rugby team down in Australia when they, were pathetic in the
Rugby
World Cup. Okay, we know that they disgraced themselves.
Tyndall, etc.
Tyndall was the main focal point of misbehaviour, in my view.
Yeah.
We now see cricketers doing it on more than one occasion because the situation involving David
Warner and Joe Root
was in a bar at 3:30 in the morning in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So these guys have history of getting out in the middle of the night.
And
they certainly weren't sober in Birmingham.
No.
They certainly weren't sober in Birmingham.
I've got less of a problem with them drinking and celebrating if they've actually got something to celebrate. But I think, getting trounced by Australia and being kind of cowed into submission by a bit of aggression tells me that actually they had nothing to celebrate.
Well, I totally agree with you. Well, I'm just emphasising my point. But the point...
You're going to miss whiplash.
No. The point I'm making is that if it was footballers, it would now be all over the front pages, in the middle of the papers, on the back pages. There'd be called disgrace. There'd be calls to bring them home. So why isn't the same done to the goddamn cricketers? That's what I just get.
They weren't drinking alcohol. And actually, one of the things that I think is a positive coming out of it is that if Kevin Peters has actually found somebody who wants to hang out with him in the England setup, then that's got to be a good thing, isn't it? Because normally they're supposed to hate the guy.
Just quickly about the Ashes, by the way, I'm looking at Martin Samuel again in the Daily Mail this morning, and he makes the very, very good point. Don't keep calling on the Aussies to temper down the sledging and be nice to England. Call on the English to up their level of aggression to meet what the Aussies are doing mentally.
They're going to have to do that because you know what's going to happen if they don't. If Australia win the toss, they're going to put England into bat and they're going to start chucking the ball at them at 100 miles an hour, Mitchell Johnson and all the rest of them, and they're going to carry on as they left off. And England are not going to necessarily have anything to come back at them with.
And by the way, mate, years and years ago, I remember seeing a picture very recently of Brian Close, who had bruises all over his body because it was bodyline stuff, when he was on tour down there. I mean, the amount of protection cricketers get these days, to start off with, you can't get a ball in the head anymore because of the guard system.
You can still get concussed, though, if you get a ball hit on the helmet.
Well, what I'm saying is it's not going to break skin, is it? And that kind of stuff, right? Most of the side of your body that faces the bowler is padded up. So, you can afford to be a little bit braver than we appear to have been so far.
A cricket ball bowled at you at high speed?
Have I had a cricket ball bowled? Well, I was captain.
It's a pretty straightforward question.
I was captain of the King's School Chester third 11, right?
At what age?
About 17.
Right.
And I wasn't as good at cricket as I was at football. Of course, I was a regular player in the first 11 football team, obviously.
You're just such an all-round sportsman, aren't you?
Well, I did play for English grammar schools.
Looking at you.
I played for English grammar schools, and I think that says it all. Cricket-wise, wasn't that good. Have I ever had No, I don't think I ever copped for a cricket ball in the gob or anything like that, but had I done so, I'd have taken it like a man, lost my teeth, and said, thank you for the privilege.
Right, Porky Parry will be back on Thursday.